MLB DW podcast, another position preview. It's February 19th. We're going through it. They're almost all written, a couple more. And then I got to do, I haven't even thought about relievers yet. It's always the last one. But yeah, John Allen is back to help me through this one. John, hello.
Hello.
How's it going? Anything new?
Pretty good. Had a consolidation draft start last night, so I was very excited about getting Jose Ramirez, and I'll have another consolidation draft here in
What
a
does
few
that
hours.
mean? Like some team
So the
failed?
league shrunk from 18 to 16 teams.
Ah,
So we took the two teams that we got rid of, and then we're having this little.
draft their
I
players.
say little, but some of the people. So last night's was a consolidation from 20 to 16. So four teams, 60-man rosters. And, as is usual in the world of Dynasty, somebody did not maintain their team very well. So
Yeah.
there's like at least a dozen or so people that don't even exist in the baseball world anymore. So other people in the league were like gung ho and wanted to have a 10-round draft. And I'm like, good luck to you guys after round 7. I don't think there's anybody
Yeah.
on there that you're going to want to add to your team, but okay.
All right. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do that for the. Eventually, we're gonna have to do that for this 30-team MLB DW draft because we've already had to replace a handful of teams, and then I think we're a short one still. I've tried to not have to solve it, but it is tough to get even 12 active owners in the fantasy baseball world, much less 30, especially after they screw up the draft and they have a terrible team. Then they just there's an easy way out. They can just delete their account and never talk to us.
Exactly. They'll never be seen again. Yeah.
But
That's what.
that's life. All right, so I did this thing recently. I was listening. I wanted to see a RotoWire podcast. It was like park factors, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I want to hear what they have to say about park factors because it's something I've looked into a lot. And then it was like 40 minutes of news reaction, and I was like, this isn't what I want. I wanted to hear the park factor, so I was like hitting 15 seconds, da da da, and
Sure.
then you go too far. And then I'm like, I was all like frustrated about it. I was like, why do people do this? And then realized, of course, I do this too. So we're gonna go directly into the subject at hand. First base preview. It's already written. If you're an MLBDW paid subscriber, you've already nothing really new here for you. It's already published, written piece, but we'll go through it. I'll just maybe some extra details, some extra opinions. Someone else can, John's here to weigh in, see where I might have missed something or whatever. And also, these podcasts are always free, so the freeloaders can get the information. But tier 1, I don't think there's much disagreement about who the top 2 are. Turns out I am one of the few that likes Vlad more than Nick Kurtz, but those are the 2. I have Vlad ahead. And I could be wrong. It's not like a hardcore stance I'm taking. It's just like I could see Kurtz really dropping 50 points in batting average. I could see other teams clearly going out of their way to plan around him, meaning they get the lefty in there to face him. Maybe he sees a lefty once or twice almost every single game, and he was not good against lefties, of course. Prodigy kid. I mean, a judge hitter, an Aaron Judge type, if there is another one in baseball, could be him. But second year, I mean, he's less than 1 year in his career. I just see a little bit of downside. But you have Kurtz number 1 pretty clearly.
I do, and I'm sure it's because of what he did for me last year. I had a league in which I spent 85% of my fab on him when he came up April 23rd,
That worked.
which is just a nuts. Like, I never do that. But I was like, no, this guy's going to be it. And also, I had a real problem at first base. So, and then it was an amazing season. So, I'm definitely basking in that glow of last season. So it's hard for me to think of anyone's going to be above him. But I also wouldn't go out of my way to try to trade for him because his stock is through the roof.
It wasn't a good beginning either. And I guess we should forget about that. I mean, you probably didn't feel super great about that 85% fab in the first few weeks, right? It was pretty rough.
I mean, I was in a bad place, so pretty much anything would have been fine. But I did feel like, given what he had done in college, and sort of how he always seemed to be able to hit no matter where he was, what he was doing. So I was like, he's going to come around. And I mean, I was with everyone else on the trip last year of what is this ballpark in Sacramento going to do?
Yeah.
And then it sort of became Coors Field of the West, and yeah, so it was an interesting ride. Definitely, as you can see there, that summertime post All-Star break, he was amazing. So
Yeah, it was absurd. I had a chance to trade. It's a home league redraft. There's two keepers, but basically trades and stuff you don't really think about keepers. Everybody, it's pretty easy to find. It's a 10-team league. It's with my high school buddies. And so anyway, point is like dynasty keeper stuff isn't really considered. You're mostly playing for that year. And like right around, I don't know, June 15th or something, I had a chance to trade Andres Munoz for him. And the guy was going to take it. And I just didn't do it. And I was mowing the grass. And I think if I was at my desk while I was texting, while like the offer was being sent to me, I probably would have taken it. But I kind of was just cutting the grass and then I kind of forgot about it. So that was a disaster. And then I would have ended up keeping Kurtz for sure because he is one of the most valuable keepers. So that's too bad. So I have the opposite story. I don't like the guy. Here's the splits. What we saw there, if you're not watching, that was his 15-day rolling OPS, and it did take him a little while to get going. But we talk a lot here about forgiving the first 100 or so PAs, and man, that would have worked absolutely gorgeously for you if you bought low on Kurtz last year, if possible. Lefties though, 197 average, 35% K rate, 264 expected WOBA. I mean, I don't know. Do you expect some help here? But this is a problem, isn't it?
I don't think it's going to be. I think he's going to round into a much better hitter as he goes along. I mean, I'm going to give him the forgiveness of this is his very first year, barely played at all his draft season. So I'm going to give him a little forgiveness, and we'll see how it goes.
Home road, he was still really good on the road, 582 slugging, 14 homers, and less than a half season's worth of plate appearances, but 35% K rate on the road. I don't know. The park factor typically doesn't. That's probably random, right? Like you wouldn't expect him to strike out more on the road than at home. The home runs obviously can be different, but I don't know. Interesting. He was the best hitter in baseball. Maybe he was with Judge and Ohtani when he was at home against a righty. Other situations, I don't know. So he'll have to improve a little bit, I think, to really justify this. But
on that road split, the one thing I'm thinking about is that he has to go to Seattle and he has to go to Texas, and those are two difficult places to hit to begin with. And then Seattle just has a really good pitching staff, so that feels like it would be interesting to see those two particular places to see if that really boosted his strike rate there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's not a good hitter's division unless you're in Sacramento, which he is. So we don't have to worry too much about it. It's just that if he does anything like, I mean, if he even comes in with like 60 to 70% of what he did last year, he'll probably clear Vlad, who really hasn't been a fantasy superstar most years. He had the big year in 2021, but they were also playing in this weird, they're playing in Buffalo and in Florida or something. Right. So his parks were kind of a joke. And since then he's been very, very good. I mean, you're never upset with what you get, but he hasn't had like that first round return season very often. So I suppose I'm wrong, but I just really don't want to mess up my first or second pick. I'm not taking either of these guys, honestly. I'm not going to take Vlad in the second round. Like, just let someone else do it. But if I just want to, and it kind of, I guess the mindset for me is like, I play most of my attention goes to this 10-team league I was talking about where it's head-to-head and there's playoffs. So I just want to be in the top 4. So I tend to play it pretty safe. Like I can get to the top 4 and then we'll see what happens there. So if you're going for number 1 out of 15, a 15-team roto league or something, Kurtz is the guy that could take you a lot of the way there. It's not really true with Vlad, but anyway, so that's fine. It's either 1 Vlad, 2 Kurtz, or reverse. Those are clearly the top 2. And then we get to tier 2. It's Pete Alonso, Bryce Harper, Ben Rice, and Matt Olson. I suppose I'm a little bit high on Ben Rice here, but you almost just kind of don't. We almost should ignore him for this because he's a catcher, right? Like draft Ben Rice, you're not going to use him at first base. So.
At least not this year, that's for sure. Yeah. And yeah, I think people are super high on Ben Rice. I'm a little concerned, not much, about the Goldschmidt signing by the Yankees. So
yeah,
they may cut into a little bit of his first base time, but maybe that's when he lands at catcher or DH. So. And Pete Alonso is somebody that I expected to be out on because he always seems to be on the up down. Good season, bad season, good season, bad season. But when he signed with Baltimore, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. That might be a good thing. So still in on Pete.
Yeah, he's just weirdly expensive. He's at, I don't know if the listeners' leagues will follow like this NFBC ADP that we're all married to, which it's probably an oversight. I don't know. Things probably do go differently if you're playing in like a 12-team league with coworkers or friends or whatever on if you're on Yahoo or ESPN or Fantrax or something. But if it does follow that, like Alonso is a couple rounds ahead of Harper and Olsen, and I just don't see a huge difference there. So I don't think you have to use a 3rd round pick on Pete Alonso. Is there really much profit potential there with what he does?
Yeah, I think I'd rather have a 5th or 6th on Matt Olson. He is the king of very good. If Vlad is the king of very, very good, then Olsen is the king of very good.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. What are you gonna get from Alonso that you can't get that you won't get from Olsen? I don't really understand the more. I mean, the projection shows 6 more homers, which is significant, but I don't know. Olsen hit 52 a few years ago.
Yeah.
Hasn't been back to that, but he can do that. So.
Yep.
And then you're right. Like Alonso's didn't he hit 230 or something a couple years ago? Like this.
Yes, he's been down. Last year he had a pretty decent batting average, but he has seen the 220s and the 230s before, so it is possible I just feel like he's going to have a pretty decent season there in Baltimore.
Last 5 years for Alonso, batting averages 262, 271, 217, 240, 272. So I don't think you're going to see 217 again. That seems like the outlier. His career average is 253, but that's probably about right. You know, he's getting into his 30s, so I'd imagine the expectation is, there's a projection here, right? What's it say? 250, and mine says 250. Yeah, so me and ATC are both at 250, which is right at the career, so I feel pretty good about that. But you're not getting more than that from Olsen. You might get more than that from Harper, and with Harper, you might actually get a dozen steals or something like that. So he's kind of my favorite, I think, in the early rounds. Like if you can get him in the 4th or 5th round, Harper might give you 30 homers, 260 batting average, and 12 steals. I feel pretty good about that. As the Phillies, I think the Phillies are at the end of this. I got a Phillies hat on. It's all fake. I'm not a serious fan, but they seem to be at the end. Like these guys are all super old, but they brought the whole crew back. They brought Schwarber back. They brought Real Muto back. Wheeler's gonna give it a go. One rib short. It's the same team, but time is now because this is an old core, and they got to go for it. So
and I
don't know. I think Harper's got a lot.
I think Bryce is going to take the GM comments and about how he's kind of not elite anymore. And
yeah,
I can't imagine he won't take that to heart and try to prove that is elite one more time.
And but he hasn't been. I think
no, he hasn't.
Yeah, he never really has been. 2021, he hit 35 homers. My whole brain, all my dashboard stuff only goes back to 2021. So basically just my history. I forget about anything before that. He had some big seasons before that, but these last 5 years, his best work is, 2021 was very good. He had a OPS over 1,000, 35 homers, 13 steals, 309 batting average. But since then, he hasn't hit above, he hit 293 in 2023. So the batting average has been pretty good. Last year, 261, 27 homers. His 4-year max in homers is 30, so he doesn't really have that same 40, 50 homer upside that you get with Alonso and maybe Olsen and certainly with Kurtz. But I think he's my favorite target. But at this point, after this tier, we'll go to tier 3. I took these screenshots right from the written post. I got a little lazy, so you see the paywall thing there. But at this point, after the first 6, 7, 8, a lot of these guys just start looking pretty much the same. At first base is not many steals and not a ton of batting average. So to me, it makes sense to kind of lean into that, get your steals, get your average at second, at short, and then just kind of be okay. Like if there's a position that I can wait and just be one of the last guys to take a guy, it might be first base because you can get 30 home run, 250 batting average all over this. But let's keep going here. And not to say that Spencer Torkelson is anywhere the same as Matt Olson or something like that, but I don't know. They're kind of the same somewhat profile, kind of the same production, just a little bit less certainty. So you can at least go into the draft saying, I'm just going to try to get 30 homers and 100 RBIs at first base. And you can get that later than the first few rounds. But tier 3, Rafael Devers, Freddie Freeman, Tyler Soderstrom. So I've got Soderstrom up here, and I think you said you like him as well, but couldn't get him above Devers and Freeman. You just kind of know what you're going to get. But we have some bones to pick with Devers. I think he's not an uncommon bust pick in San Francisco. Is that the reason you were kind of down as well, this Park thing, or is there more to it?
A combination of the Park thing, and he had a very different season hitter-wise than we have seen before. He had a career-high 15.4% walk rate And this is the guy who walked at 8% in 2022. So in the course of 3 years, he's almost doubled his walk rate. But then he also had his strikeout rate jumped to 26 points, and that's the highest if you throw out the 2020 season, which I'm going to throw out because that really wasn't a whole season. And also it jumped from 22.8% when he was with Boston, and then it was 29.4 with San Francisco. So he's a guy that had major shoulder problems in 2024, ended up not having surgery, and now all of a sudden he's gotten very timid at the plate, and it's all kind of weird. He's also not going to be third base eligible anymore, so first base only maybe, and then it almost feels like he's going to go become a DH pretty soon. So
yeah,
as far as dynasty teams go, he's a guy that I'm more than happy to try to get off my team now if I have him, because I just don't think he's going to have a lot of value very soon.
He is younger than a lot of these guys. He'll be 29 all year, which you can forget. He was an early debuter. It feels like he's been around forever, but still in the prime years, you could say. But good point about the shoulder stuff. And yeah, career high in K, career high in walk, which is okay for points leagues, WP leagues, but Roto, I just don't see the Roto shine here. Like 35 homers last year, I don't think anybody thinks that's going to happen again. Projections are 31 homers for ATC and 29 for my model. And then the steals, it's never been a thing, but it's even getting worse. The attempt rates on the screen, last 5 years, 5.3, 5.31. Those are steals, not the attempt rates. But at least you were getting a handful before, and it was one last year, and the attempt rate dumped to 1%. So you just had no interest in it at all. I don't know if that's a Giants thing or what, but I don't think you'll be crazy upset with Devers, and maybe you end up in a league where nobody wants the guy and you can get a super great price on him. So I wouldn't be opposed to that, but he's definitely, after years of him being tier 1, tier 2, I think it's fair to have him in at least 3. Freeman, really old, right? I mean, he's 30, what is it? 37, 36, not quite that bad. 36. Yeah, 36. Probably like 36 and a half by the time the season starts. Hit 297 again last year. Freddie Freeman did 24 bombs, 6 steals. So only 15 steals in the last 2 years combined. That was something he could do. He stole 23 bags in 2023. Huge season then. Hit 333, 29 homers, 23 steals in 2023. Since then, home run totals of 22 and 24. Still hitting 280, 290, 300, that range. But 36 years old on a team that really doesn't need him, which is crazy to say. Like maybe they just extra off days and stuff. So I think the ceiling is kind of capped, but what you get, if me and you hit second in the Dodgers lineup, we'd probably score some runs. So the counting stats should be pretty elite, but it's just not as exciting as a pick. But how low could you possibly go with Freeman, right? He's still quite good.
Yeah, no. In fact, probably for the upcoming year, he's probably going to be the one who performs the best out of this tier.
Yeah. And then Tyler Soderstrom, just kind of batting average and power upside. He was good last year. I've written a lot about it. I think he was on my breakouts list, even after he kind of already did that last year. But what we saw from him last year, Soderstrom, as the park thing is evident. He hit 25 homers and a 275 batting average. And all of that was with like a high ground ball rate. And I think that's something I typically see these younger hitters improve on as they come up. He'll be 24 this year, so still super young and already had a really nice season. I just think you could get 30 homers, 275 batting average again, 10 steals, and whatever amount of RBIs that comes with in this good park with this good lineup. So I would. He's the kind of the reason I think that I would wait a little bit past the first couple of tiers at first base and just try to get him, even if I have to reach a little bit.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You were talking before about how we tend to ignore the first 100 or so at bats. And I would say Soderstrom is like a poster child for that because he came up at the end of 2023. He was 21. He'd been in AAA for half a season and he got up there 138 at bats. He hit 160 with a 31% K rate. That's bad. Goes back to AAA the next year. He comes back up again. He gets 200 at bats. He hits 233, but his K rate at least dropped to 24.5, 0.9%. Right. So, and then last year explodes. And the interesting thing about last year is that we talk about the home park, but he had 280 at bats at home and 280 on the road. He hit 10 home runs at home and 15 on the road. So I think he hasn't really taken advantage yet of the home park. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I would be shocked if he doesn't get to 30 home runs this year.
Yeah, he handles lefties decently. We're talking about Tyler Soderstrom here. 330 expected WOBA against them. He's worse, obviously. You're not going to find many lefties that hit lefties better than righties, and if you do, it's probably a small sample size problem. But he was significantly better than Kurtz against lefties last year, so you don't have that big of an issue. It hit 279, slugged 493 on the road. Actually, slugged even better on the road. So it's just all good news, all good signs. Another thing to remember is that he came up as a catcher, so these 2023, 2024 stats may have been influenced by, I got to figure out how to be a major league catcher. And now he's an outfielder. I think he's going to be an everyday corner outfielder for them, but he can play a little bit of first too. Obviously that's what we're talking about him here. I don't know. Maybe he loses that this year. Kurtz is the first baseman. But I don't know. We'll see. It doesn't really matter because you're drafting him as a first baseman now, but having the outfield eligibility is also pretty nice. So Soderstrom, go ahead. We're going to say something.
No, he's definitely an up arrow guy.
Yeah, it feels like he could bust into tier 2 or something next year. So he's the favorite of mine so far, all things considered. That takes us to tier 4. I got 5 guys here, and they're all, I guess they're not all similar, but it's Michael Busch, Vinny Pasquantino, Josh Naylor, Wilson Contreras, Salvador Perez. So Busch and Pasquantino are pretty similar. Both kind of busted into the 30 homer range last year, but it's tough to believe repeating that. The projections don't really. We're both in the high 20s in homers for Busch and Pasquantino. They both can get on base. They both can hit for batting average. OBPs aren't anything phenomenal, but they're both not well above. They're both above a 250 batting average projection. So you don't have that risk of like a 220, which you'll get with some of these guys as we go along. But I just kind of think in both cases last year was the career year. Pasquantino's been more of a low 20s homer guy in his career so far. Busch doesn't have a lot of bat speed and just kind of went crazy at the end of the year after being like kind of whatever for most of his short career. So I don't know. I think they're both safe and fine. And they're that like very safe bets to hit 250, 260, 25 homers, 90 RBIs or something like that. So anything to add on Busch and Pasquantino?
Pasquantino, I remember when he was coming up through the minors and he was just tearing up. I mean, he was a guy that you were projecting to be a 300 hitter.
Yeah.
And then it was a matter of how much power he was going to get to. So it's been very interesting. I mean, he was injured a lot the last couple of years. Then last year, finally, he was healthy. All of a sudden, he hits 30 home runs. He could be a guy on the rise, but not a great athlete. Not going to get you score. He gets you the RBIs, but he's not going to get you any runs, and he's not going to get you any stolen bases. So you got to kind of work around that. And I don't know that he's going to be that 300 hitter that people thought he was going to be when he was in the minors. He hasn't showed that the last few years.
He does make contact extremely well. 90% zone contact rate. You almost never find these guys with like a 90% zone contact rate and power, like any amount of power. Pretty much anybody over 88, 89% zone contact are like Arise, Kwans, stuff like where you're hoping for 10 homers, but he's one of the few. I think Vlad is kind of in there, Corey Seager, kind of this kind of player that can do both. They can hit for super high contact rates. His strikeout rate, Pasquantino last year was under 16%, but the power just doesn't quite get there usually because the launch angles and stuff haven't been there, but it all did come up last year and the park will help them a little bit. They're moving the fences in. Only a 10.8% barrel rate last year though. So you would think more of like 25 homers with that kind of barrel rate. But you're not going to be super upset about it. Batting average expected was 275 last year. So 15 points above the actual. He's fine. I didn't ever really think about that point you made about run scoring. I guess if you're hitting 4th or 5th, the RBIs are there, but not a lot of guys behind you to drive them in. And I don't know, with the Royals.
Definitely not on the Royals.
Yeah. They got a good top of the lineup, but he'll hit behind Witt, Garcia, and Salvador Perez, I guess. I'm not sure if that's how they go about it, but then there'll be some losers behind him. So that's a good point about the run scoring. But that's kind of true with a lot of these guys because a lot of these guys are those slow-footed 4 or 5 hitters. Same with Busch. But Josh Naylor, then the projection is 17 steals. I think that's kind of what you have to talk about. Let me let's go back and just remind everybody of what Josh Naylor was doing. Let me pull the stats up here 1 second. Josh Naylor in his Cleveland days and in his Arizona days, mostly the Cleveland days, I guess, was just nothing special. On the screen now, if you're watching, 2022 played 120 games, hit 256, 20 homers, 6 steals. 2023 Naylor hit 310, so you like that. 17 homers, 10 steals. 2024 hit 243, 31 homers, so that kind of weird bust out season, 6 steals. Last year the homers went back down to what we had expected before, 20 homers, 295 average, and this 30 steal explosion. So it's just like you never knew. This guy was never definitely a great like roto fantasy guy. At least he had high OBPs and low K rates, so he was good for that stuff. But it seems like a lot of this price is just betting on another 20 steal season. And I don't know, couldn't we see this go right back down to 8 or 9? Like, what was that about last year? He was in a contract year. And I have manually, I suppose you shouldn't. The point of projection models is to take away human thoughts and narrative street. But I went into my model and I said, no, we're not projecting him like that. We're getting rid of the steals. So I've got him for 11, ATC 17, and that's a huge difference in a roto league.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Naylor is a guy that you have no idea what you're going to get, and he went crazy once he went to Seattle on the stolen bases. I'm pretty sure he had the best. He only played 2 months there, but he had more steals there than he had. Yeah.
19 steals, 11 with Arizona. Yeah,
that's crazy.
And that was in 2 months or whatever it was. So
yeah. I'm gonna kind of stay away from Josh. I just don't know what you're gonna get. Him being back in Seattle, it didn't seem to affect his hitting, which is another weird thing because most people have problems hitting in Seattle, but he seemed to be fine.
But weird things can happen in 2 month samples anyway. Yes. I agree. The point in his favor, I mean, he's got the highest ADP of this group, which is, he's top 70 pick. I think that's kind of crazy, but these are sharp people making these picks. So maybe they just, I don't know, maybe they know something we don't, or I don't know. But the one thing you can say is that he does have across the board. He's got 5 category floors, at least. He's not going to tank you in anything. That's pretty certain. And that is just really not the case for pretty much anybody after this tier. Even the guys above, I mean, they're probably going to hurt you in steals. They're probably going to not be great in batting average and stuff. So he has a little bit of that across the board stuff. Now, Wilson Contreras, I've got him way above everybody else. Tim and I are both big fans. Tim has that old Cardinals bias, which he says doesn't affect him, but clearly it does. So, but I hate the Cardinals. No worries for me. And I really like Wilson Contreras. I'm no Red Sox stan either. I don't know. The thing is, I think a lot of these draft ADP stuff, especially for hitters, really does come off where the projections say. And for whatever reason, the projections across the board don't project this guy to play a ton. And I don't get that. I think what you can have in a projection model is that you start projecting games played and you look at the past, right? How many has he played? But okay, 2 years ago, he was playing catcher. So you were losing a starter or two a week. And now he's 2 years removed from that. You got to factor that out. So I think the projected playing time is way low, and that brings down the rest of the stats. Only 22 homers from ATC, the 252 batting average. Like, I'm way over that. My projection model has 25 homers, but I think he's got 30 homers, 100 RBI upside. I just don't really see why should he be going 60 picks behind Michael Busch? Is there anything I'm missing?
I think people are thinking that Tristan Casas is going to come back. And as someone who has torn their ACL and torn their meniscus in their other knee, I can tell you that patella tendon injury he had last year, I'll be shocked if he actually plays this year. Casas is not, I mean, he's a big dude. He didn't move well before, and the patella tendon is probably the hardest knee injury to come back from. I know they're talking about how he's going to be there for spring training. I'll be surprised. I just don't think that's something he's going to come back from. And I'm assuming that's what's driving down the playing time for Wilson here, because I'm with you. I think he's going to play a lot. I've traded for him a couple times to get him on my team because I think he's a pretty decent, a deep league. He's a good first baseman to have on hand. I think he's going to hit really well in Boston, and he's going to be right in the middle of that lineup, and I think it's going to be pretty interesting what he comes up with this year.
And even if Casas does play, would they really bench Wilson Contreras? I mean,
no.
So I don't think you have to worry too much about that. I guess like his best batting average of the last 5 years is 264. He hasn't cleared 22 homers, and his best work in steals is 6. I just think that like he only played 135 games last year. There was an injury.
Yeah,
So
he
I
had
think
multiple nagging type injuries. I had him on my team on a couple teams. He was wonderful last year because he still
so
got
I,
that catcher availability. So
right.
yeah,
Yeah, he was my main target for catcher last year just because you had that. And it worked out okay. It was a really slow start, I remember, but still 20 homers, 257. I guess that's the reason. Like, if he does just repeat what he did last year, the ADP is right and my ranking is wrong, but I think he can play 20 more games, 15 more games. I think he can hit 26, 27 homers. It's a big park upgrade too. Maybe not big. Fenway's kind of weird, but Busch Stadium is definitely one of the worst parks for power hitters. Fenway's an upgrade. The lineup's a big upgrade. So I don't know. It seems to me another situation where the arrows are pointing up, and it's such a nice price. So if I miss on Soderstrom, maybe I just pack it in and chill, wait for Wilson Contreras, reach on him a little bit, try that again. Salvador Perez is someone I'm just not going to go for. And it's another situation where if you do draft him, he's your catcher anyway. So not really worth discussing here, I don't think. Are you worried just in general, Salvador Perez, like age, playing time? They got Carter Jensen around. They got a lot of kind of other guys that can mess around at first base and stuff. So
I think he's in a good position with Jensen. So Jensen can do a lot more of the catching, and Sal can be the 2-day-a-week catcher. I think that'll help him. I mean, he's ageless. I keep waiting for him to break down.
Nobody.
It just never happens. So.
Nobody's ageless. It's going to happen eventually. I've been avoiding him for like 5 years because he's old, and that hasn't worked. But eventually I'll be right. You just keep doubling down.
There you go.
I just think that maybe instead of DHing, maybe they just kind of give him an extra off day a week, or maybe one extra off day every 2 weeks or something like that. But he probably doesn't want that to happen. He's probably, I guess he's not the face of the franchise or anything like that, but he has been around a long time. He probably has some pull on, no, I'm going to play. Like, you're not going to bench me. So it'll probably be fine. But again, that's more of a catcher discussion anyway. I did catchers by myself, right? The position preview. So you can go back and read the catcher preview, listen to my takes on that. But again, we're not really drafting Salvador Perez as a first baseman anyway. So we'll go to tier 6, get the screenshot here. It's things are opening up, and I'd say the cliff. I need to do this post too, where I go to every position and say, this is where the big cliff is. So try to get everybody before all these cliffs, try to get one guy for like a 10-12 team league. You can identify these big cliffs at each position and say, how can I attack this draft to just get one guy above, fill every position with a guy above this big cliff? And I would say this is where it is. So we're 19 first baseman in, take away 2 for Rice and Perez because you're using them at catcher. But here it gets pretty ugly. Spencer Steer, Christian Walker, Miguel Vargas, Andrew Vaughn, Ryan O'Hearn, Jake Berger, Kyle Manzardo. They can do some stuff, which we'll talk about, but I would say you don't really want any of these guys as your starter, unless you think I'm crazy on Christian Walker, which maybe I am because my rank is like way below the projections. But I don't know. Steer, questionable playing time right now with the Reds kind of loading up and him just not being all that special. But let's talk about Christian Walker, I guess. Projecting for 26 homers and a 240, 230 batting average. But I don't know, getting 26, 25 homers would make this rank look pretty dumb. So am I too low?
I think those of us who remember Jose Abreu experiment with the Astros are a little concerned that Walker's headed the same way. I don't think he's quite headed that drastically down the sink, but it wasn't a great year last year. He had a good July, I think it was the 1 month that he maybe hit over
August. He hit 8 homers.
Okay.
Oh no, in July he hit 307, 3 homers. August he hit 8 homers, but the batting average came back down. So July, August he was good.
So I think it sounds like they can't trade him, so he's going to be there. It sounds like they're trying to get rid of Paredes instead. So
why? I don't understand that either.
If nobody you got to have somebody who wants him. So Walker's, it's not a huge contract, but it's bigger than what obviously he provides, and not a lot of teams are looking for first baseman.
I've been confused why they're trying to get rid of Paredes. It's just like a salary thing or something. Like he's just like the perfect fit there, but I guess they're thinking more money than anything.
They're always thinking money. There in Houston. That's what the owner thinks of nonstop. So that's a very interesting place to be to try to put together a team.
Yeah. Walker kind of fits this 2 with, I mean, we're not talking about third baseman with Paredes, but it's a similar situation. Walker's air pull last year was 17.5%, which is good. It's nothing elite. To put a comparison on that, I said 17% for Walker. Paredes was at 33%. He's always leading the league in that, up there with Cal Raleigh last year. But it's a good place for right-handed power. Walker gets a lot of balls in the air. It was a 37% ground ball rate. That's super, super low. K rate came up. He's never been an elite strikeout guy, but it was up to 28% last year. Still a 13% barrel rate. Bunch of fly balls, like we said, and a 107.5 EV90, 90th percentile exit velocity, that is. And on fly balls, it was worse than that, but 106 was still good. So I suppose, I mean, 35 though, he's my age, I don't know, like he's really just holding on to this home run number for any sort of value, and RBIs, I suppose, come with that. But just what if he loses that? You have nothing to fall back on. It could be really ugly. So I just don't want the guy.
Yeah, I definitely would want to try to avoid him if possible.
Yeah. But he could be another guy that a lot of people in your league think that, and he's just a total steal, decent guy. Decent guy for like a corner infield spot on your team. If you're loaded with steals and average early on, then you can take him for potentially like very cheap 30 homers. Everybody else here, Miguel Vargas, he should play a bunch. He has third base eligibility as well, but the projections aren't a fan. 233 average, 18 homers, 7 steals for my ATC on Vargas. Don't really see it there. Andrew Vaughn, he's an interesting one. Was awesome with the Brewers, but he didn't play. They were still kind of platooning him with Jacob Bowers. But if he hits like he did, they can't platoon that for forever. But it was like 3 months with the Brewers or something like that. I can pull up the splits on that. But if you think that he was just bad with the White Sox because he wasn't happy or they didn't know what to do with him, and then the Brewers version of him is what we get, then I think he's a pretty big steal here. But I don't know. It's another guy I've been way higher on than other people. Do you have Vaughn?
I am not a Vaughn guy. I think it was a blip on the, you get traded, all of a sudden you go from the dismal White Sox where you've been tanking for the last few years, and all of a sudden you're on a playoff team. So I think that boosts you up for a little bit. But again, he's going to end up on the wrong side of platoon. They love to platoon there with the Brewers. So I'm not that interested in him. One guy I am interested in who does have a little bit of platoony split to him would be Manzardo. Still kind of young, 25, I think, to start the season.
Yeah.
He was a guy when he was first coming up and in the draft, they were all talking about what a great hit tool he had and whether he'd get to pop. Well, he finally broke out last year. He hit 236, but he hit 27 homers. So somehow he's reversed his way of hitting in the time he's been in the major leagues. He does have some scary splits in terms of the batting average. He hits 186 against lefties and 245 against righties, but his home run rate is 5% either way. So it's another odd thing. Maybe it's just goes with his batting average, but not a lot of competition there with Cleveland. He seemed to have figured out how to hit home runs in their home ballpark. So, and 27 homers is not nothing. So something to, this late in the game, if you're looking for a corner infielder or you're in a super deep league, he might be somebody that you want to take a shot on.
I agree with that. To put a pin on that Andrew Vaughn thing, with Milwaukee, he hit 308. He slugged 493. He had a 15% K rate, 9% walk rate, 9 homers and 250 plate appearances. I mean, I just don't. I guess you're right. They like the platoon, and his history against righties has never been great. So I'm probably too high. Manzardo, he is one of the fly ball kings of the league. We just mentioned about, who was I just saying? Christian Walker, his 33% ground ball rate being super low. Manzardo has one of the lowest in the league, 30% ground balls. That's 35% fly balls, 19% air pull, and enough raw power. Not the greatest EV numbers, but if you're hitting a ton of balls in the air on the pull side, you'll get your homers. He was definitely the one. I think I had a tweet just because a couple months back, I was like, the most surprising names that hit 25 homers last year. And he was like, what? That Manzardo hit whatever it was. What'd you say it was? 27. So that's a lot, man. I mean, we get a little bit jaded or something, whatever the word would be, about Judge and Ohtani flirting with 60. But if you take away them, like, 30 homer season is hugely beneficial to a fantasy team. The projections here are 26 and 27 for ATC and mine, respectively. And that is the highest on average of this tier, it looks like. Jake Berger right ahead of him has very similar projection. If you're gonna see the articles, I usually do one of these. I don't know if I'll get to it this year. I usually do why draft blank when you can draft blank rounds later. And that's a little bit elementary and it's a little bit silly and foolish, but it's fun to do, and it is somewhat it gives you like some fallback options. I think Berger would be like the poster boy of that. Like, why draft Matt Olson when you can draft Jake Berger 200 picks later, right? Or 220 picks later. Because again, he's another guy that doesn't steal. Batting average is like 240, 250, but he can hit 30 home runs. And that's not all that dissimilar to what you get for dudes like 150, 200 picks before. He's older and he's inconsistent, and he got sent to the minors last year. So those are the problems. And the park thing has been weird, but
well, he had a wrist injury that he had surgery on over the offseason, so we'll see if that helps for Berger. But yeah, the park factor is not great. Although he hit well with the Marlins, and that's not a great park either. So Jake just strikes me as a guy who would be excellent on your slow pitch softball team. Like, I would love to have a guy on that team.
He seems like a cool guy to hang out with too. So yeah, he might be the first round pick for your beer league team or whatever. I need to get a physicist or something on the show, or just like somebody that can spill the beans in Texas, because I've talked a lot about it, but we'll bring it up again. This park factor in Texas. I mean, I played DFS. I've been playing DFS for close to 10 years now or something. I'm going to pull this up. And back in 17, 18, 19, 21, it was like, if it was summer and there was a game in Texas, that was like almost a Coors Field situation. And now the last 2 years, it's been miserable. And it's like, they didn't change the park. I looked into like the weather. I said, like, has there been really cold summers or something in Texas these last 2 years? And it didn't say that. But for some reason, you just can't hit for power there anymore. The home run per barrel rate in Globe Life Park Field, whatever it's called, the last 5 years are 58%, 50%, 56%, 50%, and last year 37%. And that's one thing, maybe that's personnel based, but then the air slug, which is, I don't know if anybody else uses this stat. It's one I've come to like, though. It's this slugging percentage on balls hit in the air. So it kind of like filters it down to similar batted balls and gives you more of the park factor. So air slug in Texas last 5 years, 2021, 836, 856, 922, 748. So a huge deduction from 2023 to 2024. And then another big drop down to 697 in 2025. Something is going on. That's not random. So humidor, baseball stuff, I don't know. Do you have any ideas about that? I'm guessing no. Nobody knows, but
I don't know. But it would be nice if one of the insiders down there in Texas Ranger land would figure this out, because that air slug is definitely, like, the other things I can kind of say. Well, they were a World Series team in 2023, so they all had career years, and then they kind of stuck from there. Plus, they have better pitching than they've had in the past, but last year
this is way outside the range.
Yes, this is not. Yeah, this is not that. This is definitely something else.
Yeah, there's very, especially with kind of weird stats like this. Like, again, having Marcus Semien at his prime in 2022, 2023, that's going to raise the home run per barrel. Like, I get that. And there's variance year to year, and we should hardly ever react to it, because people who see like these parks and they're like, well, it was a pitcher's park last year and a hitter's park the year before. So it's like, it's just randomness. Like, unless they make a change, then you shouldn't really react. But again, like, this change has been way outside that whatever the word is, the standard error for variance or whatever. So to me, it means it could snap right back. Like, if they had this humidor jacked with, or broken, or the baseballs or something, like, there's no reason it could turn into a hitter's park like immediately overnight. So I don't think it gets worse than last year, but I don't know. It's all confusing. I didn't know about the wrist surgery for Berger, and that's something I should have known. And that's a very good point. Really tough to come back. So maybe we should scratch Berger off for that reason.
Well, and he was banged up. I mean, I think he had a leg injury of some sort, maybe a hamstring or groin or something earlier in the season, and then the wrist, and it was just a bad overall year for him last year. So he could be a a definite bounce back candidate.
but not
But who knows?
the
Maybe
ceiling
if
is very.
yeah, we have no idea what's going on with that home field.
Yeah. I don't think Berger is going to be a guy you're kicking yourself for not having when we're in August or whatever, but maybe a little bit cheap. I don't know. Good guy to watch in spring to see if that wrist looks okay. Good point on that. Tier 7 then, 7 names here, just no real upside, except save one name here, I guess. It's Spencer Horwitz, Lenny Sosa, Josh Bell, Nolan Schanuel, Jared Triolo, Luis Ariz, Bryce Eldridge. These would be dudes you're probably not worried about in your 10, 12 team league that goes like 350. So like my home league goes 280 picks deep. So that's a shallow league. I don't know. I really have trouble. It's a problem with content creation for fantasy baseball stuff is that I get like there's this one person that DMs me all the time, and it's a girl, which is why it stands out to me because like there's girls that play fantasy baseball. Like this is so strange. But she's always like, should I pick up Spencer Schwellenbach or should I pick up whatever another name is, like these crazy names? I'm like, why are these people available? So you have this 8-team league people out there, and then you have these 30-team leagues. Like so it's hard to know when to stop talking about guys, how far to go in, whatever. Like all of these dudes are very much guys you want to know about and have on teams in your 20-team leagues or whatever, but just not a lot of game-breaking upside. So Spencer Horwitz here, good like points leagues, OBP leagues guy, 267 projected average, 352 OBP. That's my model. It's a little bit hot. I promise I didn't like put a Pirates boost in there, but he projects decently well, but only ATC has him for 11 homers. I think that's kind of crazy, but you're looking at a dozen homers, 15 homers, and like a pair of steals or something like that. So nothing great there. Same with Sosa. Just none of these guys do a lot. Josh Bell, new team. Maybe we can mention him real quick. He could hit some homers. He could play a lot. He could be a little bit sneaky, but another guy. He's projecting for 1 steal. That's too high, right? Josh Bell.
Yes.
It's 1 steal too high in the projection, but
It would break the streak, I think.
Sometimes you just throw one in there just to round up. You like, I don't know. It's hard. Yeah. I think it is kind of wrong to ever project somebody for 0 steals because sometimes you're just following the guy that's stealing third and you don't even really, but whatever. So Bell could hit 25, 26 homers. Not a great landing spot in Minnesota, but at least he's got a clear job, right?
At least for now. We'll see what's happening there. That's another organization that you don't know if they're trying to tear it all down a little more or build it back up, and they got a lot of prospects hiding out there that they're waiting to bring up. So
he's a switch hitter. I don't think he's any good at defense, so there's the splits aren't as big of a concern. I don't think it's a platoon thing, but maybe they just decide to, like you said, what's the point of playing Josh Bell if we don't have to? Nolan Schanuel, interesting on him. He's been adding a little bit of power each year. Let me pull that up. The projections are 6 homers for steals, 13 homers from ATC and 16 for me. He hit 12 last year, but he played fewer games. So the home run rate has been the same the last 2 years, 2.1%, very low. He's an elite contact hitter and a good on-base percentage guy. Got a career OBP over 350 so far. So great for points leagues, but career 15 steals and 26 homers and 15 steals in his entire career, which spans almost 300 games. So not a roto guy, but a decent points league, OBP league target, I think. It's tough that the Angels are so bad.
He would definitely fit into that realm. But I think overall that's what we're seeing here on this tier is that you're gonna be either underpowered or not sure what your job is. Somebody like Sosa is interesting only from the sense that he has multiple positions. Yeah. So he's a good bench guy. Especially if you're in the deeper leagues and you need somebody that has that positional flexibility because you never know when your top guys are going to go down.
And speaking of that, Jared Triolo, shortstop, third base, first base, that's really nice to have in deep leagues. And, Triolo, you thought that he would end up on the bench as the Pirates were going after Okamoto, they were going after Suarez, but their camp, spring training games start tomorrow as we record this. And they don't have a third baseman, and there's no real free agent left. So it seems like he's going to play a bunch. And over the last 2 months last year, they traded Ke'Bryan Hayes at the deadline. So Triolo had a clear job. He was the third baseman. He's a Gold Glove defender. one of the best infield defenders in the league. Played every day, August, September, hit 4 home runs, stole 8 bases. So extrapolate that. It's not always the safest game to do, but extrapolate 4 homers. That you basically multiply this by 3, right? So you're at 12 homers and 24 steals. If he continues that, I don't like doing the splits thing, but you can make a case for it that he's finally settled in and got regular reps and showed what he could do. He can steal some bases. He can hit for a good batting average, hit about 270 over the last 2 months as well. So I think he's underrated, but there's really no upside with him. Just for that position flexibility and with some of the stuff he can do, I like him. Luis Arraez, I don't know, what's he hit? Does he hit 5 homers this year? The projection is 4 and 6. Brutal landing spot for him. And he's going to play second base, and everybody's going to be criticizing him. I've never seen a guy who would be loved so much in 1995 and would be hated so much in 2025, 2026. So any reason to take Arraez, or I don't know. It's
only if you have to, and only if you're playing in one of our lovely 30 team leagues. So
if it's like a singles league, if you get a bunch of points for singles, like he's great.
Yeah, and he's not going to be your first baseman. He's going to be your second baseman, as we said.
Yeah. Bryce Eldridge, he is the upside guy here. Massive power prospect guy. You're probably pretty familiar. What do you think about Eldridge? He's going to DH, I guess, which is not the ideal situation for a team. You don't really want your top prospect coming up and playing DH. That's like you're only getting half the work. But Devers at first, maybe he'll play.
It's interesting because he was a pitching and a hitting prospect when he first was drafted. They weren't sure what he was going to do, and then they moved him over to hitting. They've tried him in an outfield. They tried him in first base. He's not really great at either. So yeah, he's definitely got a DH look to him. But definitely the power is there. He does, at least in the minor leagues, has hit for a decent average. So we'll see. Again, he came up at the end of last year, looked horrible. I think he struck out 40% of the time. But again, like we said, that was the taste. We'll see how it goes. It's not a great park to hit in, but Barry Bonds hit a lot of bombs there, so who knows? Man,
imagine if Barry Bonds was a Red or something like that. Goodness. Eldridge, 37 plate appearances last year, like you said, 35% K rate, 19% walk rate. So he was taking walks, just he didn't really swing a lot. 41% swing rate. That's got to come up. He did have a 25% barrel rate. I don't know exactly. 4 barrels. Okay. So he got to 4 barrels and 0 homers off of them. So that's both bad luck and also a sign that barrels aren't the best in AT&T. Is it AT&T Park or is it Oracle Park?
Oracle.
What's it called? Oracle. Okay. So I've been calling it the wrong thing. Is AT&T somewhere else? I don't know. But Eldridge is the guy here that maybe he makes a big stride forward and just hits a bunch of homers, but it's risky for sure. He'll be someone to watch in spring.
Super young, so he's got a ways to go.
Yeah, and maybe a trade. I don't know. If you're the Giants, he could be so much more valuable on another team in another park, but not always easy to trade prospects and stuff. Last few here: Cody Clemens, Tristan Casas, Kobe Mayo, Romy Gonzalez, Josh Smith. Just part-time players, mostly, possibly AAA guys. I don't know. I threw him on at the end here just for this as we get into some deeper league consideration. I don't hate Cody Clemens. Minnesota, he's got some power and maybe he can play. It's got some flexibility and it's not a great roster. Casas, we already talked about. Mayo needs to get traded. We've been saying that for years. And again, we're getting close to March and you don't typically see trades and roster moves happen, but it could happen. And if he does, he'd be a pretty nice guy to have. But right now in Baltimore, there's no path forward to playing, right?
He's stuck and they don't seem to ever put him in a situation where he can be successful. So you give him a very short runway and he fails and then that's it.
And he strikes out a ton and the projected batting average is super low, but he has huge power. So if anybody could just work with him and give him regular time, like it would make even the Pirates, right? Like that seemed to make some sense. The Orioles
go get him, Rockies.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Chris Bryant. That's all very sad, but it made sense for some team that had excess, some pitching depth to give the Orioles a pitcher and see if they can turn Kobe Mayo into a power hitting first base, third baseman. But hasn't happened yet. And as things stand right now, he's a guy that should be left on waivers for this year. Romy Gonzalez, more of a platoon guy, absolutely smashes lefties, but probably not going to play against righties unless Campbell fails again. Meyer, they got a lot of these guys. Their second base outfield situation is interesting. And and a little bit hard to navigate. But I don't think Roman Gonzalez is going to play a ton. But if you're ever in a situation, if you're playing DFS or if you're in a super deep league where you can switch out your roster every day, Roman Gonzalez is someone to have in there against lefties. Josh Smith, Rangers utility man, not horrible, just has trouble playing a lot and doesn't do a whole lot. So that's the top 38 first baseman. Anybody I missed? Any like deep league prospects, whatever guys you're kind of having on the radar, or do we cover it?
Well, I'm sure Tim would point out, of course, that Sal Stewart belongs in this list somewhere. So,
oh yeah,
his favorite. And you know, I'd love to say more about him, but just listen to the Tim's prospect podcast for first, second, or third base because he talks about Sal each time. So, but seriously, Sal's a really good hitter. I think he's going to end up at first base, although the Reds seem to be putting everybody and their brother in his way to his playing time. So who knows what they're doing there? That's just a messed up situation.
I need to know now. Why isn't he on here? He must only be third base eligible. I'm going to look this up real quick.
Yeah, it's very weird. I had him on a team where he was first and second base last year, and then he was my last second base. So I'm starting off the year with no second baseman. So before I head to the draft, so guess
he is a first. He's got first base, so that was just an oversight for me. He'd probably be like tier 5 or something like that, tier 4. So
yeah,
I like him just fine. It was just a mistake that he wasn't in here. So all right, that's first base. Me and Tim are gonna do. He's doing his second base rankings. We'll just talk about my rankings during that. But we'll be back. We got shortstop, we got third base, we got relief pitcher left to go as spring starts. So thanks for joining, John. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back next time. Subscribe MLBDataWarehouse.com for so much stuff. I don't even want to get into it. Doing a lot. So peace out. Talk next time.